Let's start this lesson with a little review. Do these warm-up problems and come back when you're done. Pause the video now. And here's what those answers would look like. In order to convert my percent into a decimal, you could write it as the fraction first. 2/100ths would be written in decimal form as 2/100ths. 85 over 100 is 85% and can be written as 0.85. If you notice, a little trick would be to move your decimal 2 places to the left. So if I was at 120% and I wanted to write it as a decimal, I could just move my decimal 2 places to the left, giving me 1.2. It works in reverse for writing a decimal as a percent. I could either multiply by 100 or simply move my decimal 2 places to the right. And then finally, this was a review of the percent equation. 42% needs to be written as a decimal, and of means multiply. So 0.42 times 345 gives me 144.9. So 144.9 is 42% of 345. This video is about the percent of change equation. This is actually a really important equation for your life. I use it all the time. And in fact, when you read articles in the paper, you'll often read that the percent of increase is this, or it decreased by that percent. This is the equation they're using to get it. The percent of change in two numbers is the amount of the change over the original amount. So when we say amount of change, we really mean the difference between the two numbers. And then what's weird about it is you divide it by the original amount, whichever came first. Let's read this paragraph. Read it silently to yourself now. To summarize this paragraph, they're talking about falling prices in certain products. And it mentions in the paragraph that prices have only risen by 1.2% over the last year. That would be considered a percent of increase. Percent of increase happens when your original amount is lower than your ending amount. A percent of decrease is when your final amount is lower than your original amount. Let's use the equation to calculate a percent of change. A price goes from $12 to $15. What is the percent of change? Well, the first thing to notice is our final calculation will be a percent of increase. So we write our equation. You can use abbreviations. Percent of, and we can use the word increase right here. Well, that's going to be equal to the difference between the two amounts, and we will still always take the larger number minus the smaller number. But here's where you need to be careful, because we need to put the original amount in the denominator. That would be the 12. And then it just turns into a matter of calculation. We take our 15 minus 12, which gives us 3 over 12. And then you can use a calculator if you want, and you'll get a decimal. That decimal is 0.25. But because we want the percent of increase, I'm going to multiply it by 100. So our true percent increase for this example is 25%. Let's try another one. In 1 year, a car's value changes from $38,000 to $30,000. What is the percent decrease? Well, you can see the amount decreased because it started out as $38,000 and then has depreciated to $30,000. So once again, we use our percent of change formula. You can either write percent of change or percent of decrease. It won't matter. Remember, the formula is to take the difference of the two numbers. And divide that by the original amount. Our original amount was $38,000. So we're going to take $8,000 and divide that by $38,000. And I get the decimal 0.21, and you can round to another 1 if you wanted. But to write the percent of decrease, I'm going to multiply that number by 100, moving my decimal place 2 places to the right. So my percent of decrease is 21.1%. So you can say that your car lost 21.1% of its value in 1 year. Here's a final problem for you to try. It said the price of a sweater decreased from $29.99 to $24.49. Find the percent of decrease. Pause the video and give it a try. Hopefully you're good at using the percent of change equation now. Remember, if you have any questions, just seek one of us out and ask us. We're here to help.